Good day, good noon, or good evening, everyone. I will be reporting about landslide risk assessment and mitigation. So let's begin an introduction. Landslides cause major loss of lives and property worldwide, and the problem worsens as urban development increases. Because of this, landslides have become a major area of scientific research, engineering practice, and land use planning. International cooperation among geology and engineering experts has improved our understanding of landslides. So we all know that landslides is a natural phenomena that we always try to avoid or atong ginalikayan because it can cause serious damage such as loss of lives, destruction of property, and harm to the environment. So many countries face serious landslide problems. First is Japan, experiences the highest losses, around $4 billion annually, followed by the United States, Italy, and India, each losing $1 to $2 billion per year. Developing countries also suffer large damages, sometimes equal to their national income. In the US, landslide costs about $106 million each year just for highway repairs. So ingana kadako ang impact sa landslide sa ilang country. Landslides greatly affect transportation systems, including bridges. They can damage bridge abutments. So when we say abutments, it is structural supports at the end of the bridge that receives and transfer loads on the ground. And also, weaken supporting soils, disrupt service, increase cost, and cause injury or death. So some landslides occur suddenly. So ang landslide daw, mahitabo jud dayon or dili na to mapredict or dayon siya mahitabo. So while others give warning. So ang landslide pod makahatag po siya warning, just like rock falls or mga dagko kayong bato na magtagak-tagak. So but all can be predicted and mitigated to some extent. So napoy solution na ma-predict pud siya or ma-mitigate. So the chapter aims to explain landslide hazards and provide engineers with essential principles to plan and design safe, cost-effective bridges in landslide-prone areas. This lesson covers first, introduction, second, landslide hazard assessment and landslide risk management, third, landslide types and causal factors, fourth, slope stability analysis and selection of design soil parameters, fifth, landslide risk mitigation, and sixth, landslide monitoring and warning systems. I will be discuss the landslide hazard assessment. Landslide hazard identification requires understanding how slopes behave and how different factors such as geology, geomorphology, water conditions, climate, and vegetation affect landslides. So, when we say geomorphology, it is the study of landforms. When we say geology, it is a study of rock and soil types. So, with this understanding, the following tasks can be done. First, classify the types of potential landsliding. The classification system proposed by Varnes on 1978 as modified by Cruden and Varnes on 1996 constitutes a suitable system. It should be recognized that a site may be affected by more than one type of landslide hazard. For example, deep-seated landslides occur at the site, whereas rockfall and debris flows will initiate from above the site. So this means identifying what kind of landslides might occur in the area. Example, rockfalls, debris falls, deep-seated slides, and so on. So the Varnes classification system is commonly used because it helps engineers describe landslides in standardized and organized way. So it is used to properly name, describe, and understanding landslides, which helps experts predict hazards and design the right solutions. So the second one is assess the physical extent of each potential landslide being considered, including the location, areal extent, and volume involved. So this involves determining where the landslide might happen, how big it could be. So including the estimating of location, area affected, and the volume of material that may move. So the purpose of determining where a landslide might happen, or how big it could be, is to reduce risk and protected lives, property, and the environment. So as you see in the figure, the first one is estimating landslide characteristics and mobility. The second one is modeling accumulated volume of landslides using remote sensing and DTM data. So we can do remote sensing to estimate the location, aerial extent, and volume involved, and also the DTM data. So when we say remote sensing, means it is collecting information about the Earth's surface without touching it, just like satellites, drones, and aerial topography. While the DTM data, or what we call digital terrain model, is a 3D digital representation of the bare ground surface without trees or buildings. So, so makita man ninyo diri ang example sa figure. So the third one is assess the likely causal factor or factors, the physical characteristics of the materials involved, and the slide mechanics. So this means that we can identify or determine the likely triggers of the landslide. For example, rainfall, earthquakes, human activity, and so on. And also understand the physical properties of the soil or rock involved. So the last but not the least is estimate travel distance and speed. So we need to estimate the landslide travel distance and speed. So we need to also, or in short, we need to predict how far the landslide may travel and how fast it may move. So to assess the potential impact on people, infrastructure, and the environment. Ang paghibalo mo sa travel distance, makatabang na siya sa pag-ila kung asa nga mga lugar ang delikado maigo sa landslide. So samtang ang paghibalo man sa speed kay makatugot sa pagplano kung unsa kadali maabot ang landslide sa mga lugar. So nga importante para sa evacuation, warning, early warning, or emergency response. So kini nga impormasyon makatabang usab sa paghimo o pagbutang sa protection sa masa retaining walls, debris barriers, or diversion channels, o sa mga pagplano sa paggamit sa yuta aron malikayan ang pagtukod sa delikadong lugar. So in short, estimating distance and velocity is essential for reducing loss of life, property damage, and ensuring effective hazard mitigation. So before embarking on a regional landslide hazard assessment, the following preparatory steps are to be taken. So first, identify the user and purpose of the proposed assessment. Involve the user in all phases of the program. So before starting a landslide assessment, it is essential to determine who will use the information or for what purpose. Involve the user in all phases ensures that the assessment meets their specific needs, whether it is for urban planning, infrastructure development, disaster management, or environmental protection. These steps helps prioritize the focus of the study and ensures that the results are practical and applicable. So the second one is define the area to be mapped and decide the appropriate scale of mapping. This may range from 1 is to 100,000 or smaller to 1 is to 5,000 or larger. So it is clearly defined that the geographic boundaries of the area to be studied and choose the mapping scale depending on the project. So the scale may range from a broad review, or we can use the 1 is to 100,000 for regional planning, to a very detailed scale. We can use 1 is to 5,000 for site-specific engineering projects. So the chosen scale affects the level of detail that can be captured and the type of decisions that can be made based on the map. So the third one is obtain or prepare a good topographic base map of the area, preferably contoured. So a high quality topographic map preferably with contour lines. So it's essential because it provides a detailed representation of the land's shape and slope. Topography influences landslide occurrence. So accurate elevation and slope data help identify vulnerable areas. This base map serves as the foundation for overlaying geological, hydrological, and hazard-related information. So the fourth one is construct a detailed database of the geology, or solid and superficial, geomorphology, hydrogeology, pedology, meteorology, mining and other human interference, history, and all other relevant factors within the area, and of all known mass movements, including all published work, newspaper articles, and the results of interviewing the local population. So, a comprehensive database must be created containing all relevant information about the study area. This includes geology, geomorphology, hydrogeology, soil, climate, human activity, and mining history, as well as records of previous landslides. So information can be gathered from publication, newspapers, and interviews with locals. So this database allows for a true understanding of potential causes, patterns, and the areas of vulnerability. So the last but not the least is obtain all available or air photo cover, satellite imagery, and ground photography of the area. Photography of various dates can be particularly valuable both because of what can be revealed by differing lighting and vegetation conditions and to delineate. Finally, collecting photographs and satellite images is critical for assessing changes over time. Multiple dates help reveal variations in lighting, vegetation, and land use, which can indicate slope instability or landslide development. Combined with field inspection, these images improve accuracy in delineating hazard zones and predicting potential landslide behavior. So, landslide risk management. So, the risk management process has two main parts: risk assessment and risk treatment. Risk assessment answers the important questions such as what might happen, how likely is it, what damage may result, and how important is it. Meanwhile, risk treatment focuses on what actions can be done to reduce the risk. In landslide and slope engineering, this process has long been practiced through the engineering judgment of experienced engineers and geologists even before it was formally recognized as risk management. So, risk assessment answered several important questions, and we can identify the level of danger in a certain area by understanding this. So, on the other hand, risk treatment focusing on the actions we can take to reduce or control the risk. These include measures and strategies that help lessen the impact of potential hazard. So there is a clear difference between hazard, risk, and probability. A hazard is a dangerous condition that can cause harm such as slope that may fall. So when we say hazard, manay kanang katalagman. So it includes the landslide's location, size, or volume, type, speed, and chance of occurrence. Risk refers to the possible damage or injury to people, property, and the environment based on both likelihood and severity of the event. Probability is simply the chance that a landslide will happen, expressed from 0 to 1, where 0 means impossible and 1 means certain. So, uh, in according to in landslide and slope engineering, this process has been long time, even before it was formally called risk management. Experienced engineers and geologists were already using their knowledge and judgment to assess risks and apply solutions. So, uh, the probability will happen expressed from 0 to 1. So, means 0 means impossible, so imposible. na mahitabo, and 1 means certain. So when we say certain is 100% na mahitabo or sigurado. So as we see in the next slide is the process of landslide risk management. As we see in the figure, there is a pattern. So we can see the scope definition, hazard identification, consequence analysis, frequency analysis, risk calculation, risk evaluation, treatment options, treatment plan, implement plan, monitoring and review, risk treatment, risk management, risk assessment, risk analysis, reconsider, and the last but not the least is the feedback. So this is the process of landslide risk management. So landslide inventory maps. The International Union of Geological Sciences, or IUGS, defines landslide hazard as the probability that a potentially damaging landslide may occur within a specified time and area. Meanwhile, landslide risk assessment refers to the expected degree of loss, including life loss, injuries, property damage, and economic disruption. To properly assess landslide hazard and risk, experts rely on knowledge from geoscience, geomorphology, meteorology, hydrogeology, and geotechnical engineering. So according to International Union of Geological Sciences, or IUGS, a landslide hazard is defined as the probability that a potential damaging landslides may occur within a specified time and area. So meanwhile, landslide risk assessment refers to the expected degree of loss. This includes possible loss of lives, injuries, property damage, and even economic disruption. So landslide inventory maps are used to show the distribution of landslide hazards and identify areas where landslides may occur. They include the locality or location, date, and historical record of past landslides. Ideally, these maps provide details on probability, type, magnitude, velocity, runout distance, and retrogression limits. The type of information and map detail depends on the level of development in the area being studied, as ignoring landslide potential can increase risk. So, to properly evaluate landslide hazards and risks, experts use knowledge from different fields such as geoscience, geomorphology, meteorology, hydrogeology, and geotechnical engineering. So these fields understand the behavior of slopes, soil, weather, and groundwater. One of the important tools used in this process is the landslide inventory maps, or inventory map. These maps show the distribution of landslide hazards and help identify areas where landslides are likely to occur. They contain important information such as the location, the date, and the historical record of past landslides. So there are types of landslide maps as proposed by Einstein. So the first map is state of nature maps. State of nature maps shows site data without interpretation like topography, geology, and rainfall. Then the second map is danger maps. It indicates possible failure modes such as debris flows or rock falls. So the third one, or the third maps, is hazard maps. Show the probability of failure, often expressed as high, medium, or low. While the fourth map, management maps, which is the management maps, summarize decisions for landslide management. So as you see in the figure, there is a lot of color, so or different colors, which is green, yellow, pink, and red. So when we say green is lowly hazardous, when we say yellow is moderately hazardous, when we say pink, highly hazardous, and the red is very highly hazardous. So maps can also be created at different scales depending on the purpose. So the first is national scale, or 1:1 million. So it is generally hazard overview for policymakers. And the second one is the regional scale, 1:100,000 to 1:500,000. Or it is, or when we say 1:100,000, it is 1 centimeter to 1 kilo, 1 centimeter is to 1 kilometer on the ground. Then also 1 centimeter is to 5 kilometer on the ground. So its purpose is to evaluate constraints for large projects and regional planning. So the third one is medium scale, 1:25,000 to 1:50,000, or so we say 1 centimeter is 25 meter on the ground, or 1 centimeter is to 50 meter on the ground. It is used for urban areas and detailed hazard zoning. So the last is large scale, 1:5,000 to 1:15,000. Highly detailed maps for specific sites using field investigation and aerial photos. So thank you for listening. I now give the time to our next reporter.
Landslide types and causal factors. Landslide classification. The UNESCO Working Party's definition of a landslide is the movement of a mass rock, earth or debris down a slope, and recognizes that the phenomena described as a landslide are not limited either to the land or to sliding. The word has much more extensive meaning that its component parts suggest. An idealized diagram depicting the nomenclature of various features of complex earth flow. So, muna siya ang different types or types sa pag-classify sa landslide. So, we have one is crown, main scrap, minor scrap, flank, accumulation, foot, and the main body, and also the surface structure. As there is a wide spectrum on the landslide types, the potential or already occurred landslide should be classified as clear as feasible. The criteria used by the UNESCO Working Parties on the World Landslide Inventory in classification of landslide, in emphasizing the type of movement and the type of material. The division of materials are rocks, debris, and earth. Rock is characterized as an intact, hard, or firm mass in its natural place prior to the initial movement, whereas soil is referred to as an aggregate or unconsolidated soil particles, either transported or derived in a place via a weather processing. The latter is further divided into earth, in which 80% or more of the particles are smaller than 2 mm in size, and debris, whereby 20% to 80% of the solid particles are larger than 2 mm. So next is movements are divided into 6 different types. So we have fall, flows, slides, spread, topples, and complex movement. In reality, there is a continuum of mass movements from falls through slides to flows. In many instances, it is difficult to determine whether masses of materials have fallen or slid, and similar, there are a number of instances in which materials has both slid or flowed. Very large falls can result to various types of flow involving fluidization with either water or air. So kung tagaan na to meaning ang or definition ang mga movements sa landslide. So number 1, we have topple. So topple daw is a failure involved in a forward rotation and movement of a mass of rock, earth, or debris out of slope. This kind of slope failure generally occurs around an axis or a point at or near base of the block of the rock. So good example daan is in Aldrop, UK. So but usually kanida siya mahitabo sa mga mountain passes, coastal cliffs, or sa mga excavated na mga slope. So ikaduha is ang fall. So falls are landslide that involves the collapse of materials from a cliff or a steep slope. Falls usually involve a mixture of free fall through the air, bouncing or rolling. A fall type landslide results to a collection of a rock or debris near to the base of a slope. A good example of a slope landslide is in katong nahitabo sa Masara katong February 2024 nga naka-cause of damage sa mga damaged area. So basically daghan kay itong namatay pod na natabo or katong natabunan ng mga minero during atong time. Syempre kay gabi sad to, so wala sad kay nila nabantayan ba na inapamahitabo. But the government in Mako nag-warn na sila nga may nadyo possibilities nga maglandslide dito dapita kay nag-warning naman to dito So yeah, but katagad di gud mata may iwasan gud na tragedy na mahitabo. So lateral spread is a type of landslide that occurs when a large block of ground move horizontally on a gentle slope, most commonly triggered by earthquake-induced soil liquefaction. The shaking causes loose, saturated soil layers to lose strength and flow, causing the overlying, more solid ground to fracture and spread out in a block. This type of landslide is known for causing significant damage to structure, as it involves horizontal displacement and is often seen in areas near riverbanks and coastlines. So last, a complex landslide. It involves two or more types of movement like fall, slide, flow, topple, or spread, occurring in a sequence or simultaneously within the same event, often starting as a one type and transitioning into another as it moves down slope, making them dangerous and harder to classify. Most large landslides like rock or debris avalanches are complex, exhibiting combining failure modes such as rock fall turning into a debris flow. The Department of Environment recognizes the existing of complex landslide in which ground displacement is achieved by more than one type of mass movement, and emphasizes that this should not be confused with landslide complex, that this an area is of instability within such many different types of mass movement occur. The quality expression of the former is a small, medium, or large, whereas the latter is expressed qualitative as slow, moderate, or fast, as its downslope velocity of a debris flow. A landslide is known to be active when it's presently moving. So landslide daw is active lang daw siya pag kanang kuan na daw or pag presently moving na siya. So pasabot kanang bitong perminti ulanon or katong mga cliff or mga cliff na wala nagyoy like mga tanom or mga punuan nga walay ugat nga mugunit sila ba mo na yung mga active. So an active landslide is one of the last to move or more than annual cycles of season ago. So pasabot katang inactive landslide daw is katong mga lugar na daghan o pag mga punuan. So mo na sila ang mga last to move. So inactive landslide are further categorized into dormant if the causes of the movement are apparent and abandoned if its triggering action is no longer present. So, landslide causal factor. The process of a slope movement involves a series of events from cause to effect, recognizing the condition that led to slope instability and triggers of a movement is essential for assessing landslide hazard. An accurate diagnosis is crucial for understanding landslide mechanism and proposing effective treatment and measurement. So the cause and effect of a landslide. So the cause, pinaka-cause gud na is pagputol sa mga punuan. So wala na may makunitan ang mga ugat, or since batay naman ang ugat, so wala na magunit sa yuta. So ang effect, pag muulan, so maglandslide yun na yung possibility kung maglandslide. So the factor of safety serve as an essential indicator distinguish between stable and unstable slope. Slope stability can be categorized into 3 stages. So stable slope resist destabilizing force. Marginally stable slopes may eventually fail under certain conditions, and actively unstable slope experience ongoing movement due to destabilizing force. So I said ganina, so mag-move gyud siya katong mga unstable slope pag wala na ugat na magunit sila. So katong mga ito bitaw mga stable slope, so possible gyud sila nga ma-unstable pag sig ulan so gyud siya. The 3 stability stages represent a continuum from stability to instability, where the probability of a failure is low at the stable and increases through the marginally stable ranges, leading to a certainty in a actively unstable stage. This framework aids in understanding the causal factor of landslide and classifying them into 2 functional groups. So number 1 is preparatory causal factor that makes the slope susceptible to movement without actually initiating it, and thereby tending to place the slope into a marginal stable state. So number 2 is triggering causal factor that initiate movement. The causal factor shift the slope from marginally stable to actively stable state. So kato siya is na-explain na siya ganina. Slope stability and selection design for soil parameters. So there are 2 primary methods for analyzing slope stability. So number 1, or the first method, is the forward approach, so which necessitates data on shear strength, properties, and pore pressure conditions. Shear strength is obtained through various field and laboratory methods, while pore pressure analysis requires advanced technique to accurately measure groundwater and soil suction responses during the rainfall events without dampening peak condition. The approach assumes conservative worst case parameters values to derive a factor of safety. So the second method is the backward approach. To analyze the slope instability necessitates precise data on the geometric of failure surfaces and pore water pressure distribution. It is crucial to accurately identify the position and shape of the slip surface using both surface and subsurface monitoring data for a reliable backward analysis. When the factor of safety equals 1, this analysis provides a measure of the shear strength mobilized along the slip surface. Shear strength parameters for slope stability analysis. The limit equilibrium methods forming a framework of slope stability and stability analysis generally accept the Moore-Coulomb failure criterion, which can be expressed in terms of effective or total stresses. The Moore-Coulomb shear strength in terms of effective stress is as follows. So shear strength is equals to C plus normal stress tan phi, whereas TF and normal stress are the shear stress and effective normal stress, respectively, on the failure surface and the C and the phi are the shear strength parameters. Cohesion intercept and the internal friction angle respectively in terms of effective stresses. So, ikaduha na formula is TF is equals to CU plus normal stress tan phi U. So, the shear strength of a slope stability analysis in terms of total stresses, where normal stress represents the total normal stress on a failure surface, and the CU and the phi U are the shear strength parameters. Cohesion intercepts the internal friction angle respectively. So katulo is normal stress is equal to normal stress minus U. In terms of total stresses, normal stress and normal stress are related through the effective stress principle, where U represent the pore water pressure at the sliding surface, and an illustration of strength envelopes in the terms of total and effective stress. Backward analysis of a slope stability. Backward analysis is a valuable method for determining design shear strength parameters in a slope stabilization. It treats slope failure as a full-scale shear test, providing insight into the strength activate at the slip surface. The shear strength parameters derived from the analysis, which align closely to a actual slope performance, can inform into a limit equilibrium analysis or design of the remediation strategy compared to a laboratory or in situ test. Back analysis parameters offer enhanced reliability for designing necessary remedial measures. So makita niyo sa table ay sa picture, so muna siya ang more circle. So nagyan pa sa geotech. So di naman abag sa to. So na test 1, test 3. Na pa cohesion. So muna siya. Tapos dala po daw pita ang failure mag-envelope. So napita ba itong shear stress, makita ba itong normal stress. Procedures to determine the magnitude of both shear strength parameters or the relationship between them, considering the position of the actual slip surface within the slope. The two unknowns, that is the shear strength parameters C and phi, can be simultaneously determined from the following two requirements. So another two requirements daw. So number 1 is Fs equals to 1. For the given failure surface, that means the back calculated strength parameters have to satisfy the C, tan, P limit equilibrium relationship. So makita niyo na dira sa picture. So number 2 is the Fs minimum is equals to minimum. For the given failure surface and the slope under consideration, that means the factor of safety for slip surface slightly inside and slightly outside of the actual slip surface should be greater than 1. So muna siya ang picture sa Fs nga minimum is equal to minimum. So seismic slope stability analysis. So number 1, we have the instability. So occur in a slope where the shear strength remains essentially constant during shake. During an earthquake, the ground acceleration generate inertial forces. Failure or displacement occurs when earthquake acceleration exceeds the slope yield accelerations.
Landslide risk treatment option. Risk treatment is the final stage of risk management process and provides a methodology for controlling the risk. At the end of the evaluation procedure, it is up to the client or to the policymakers to decide whether to accept the risk or not, or to decide that more detailed study is required. As you can see in the figure beside it, na siya planning phase, just must study it first, and then preliminary design of general project options. Second is design phase, and then third is construction phase. Monitor or install monitoring systems, and then construct, and then after that maintenance phase. Like, is the project performing satisfactory? If yes, continual periodic monitoring. If no, revise design. Before diving into construction, we must first decide on a strategic approach to the risk. The Bridge Engineering Handbook defines 7 risk treatment options. First, accept the risk. Consequence and likelihoods are deemed acceptable. It means accepting the risk while continuously monitoring the slope to ensure conditions do not worsen. This is typically reserved for low-risk scenarios. Risk avoidance. This is the ideal solution. It means changing the bridge alignment or location entirely to bypass the unstable slope, minimizing the interaction between the asset and the hazard. Reduce likelihood. This requires stabilization measures to control the initiating circumstances, such as reprofiling the surface geometry or installing groundwater drainage, anchors, stabilizing structures, protective structure. Consequence reduction. This requires provision of defensive stabilization measures, amelioration of behavior of hazard, or relocation of the development to a more favorable location to achieve an acceptable or tolerable risk. Daraang minimize the impact if failure occurs, like installing monitoring or warning systems. And fifth is monitoring warning systems. In some situations, monitoring, such as regular site visits or by surveys, and establishment of warning measures may be used to manage the risk on an interim or permanent basis. Monitoring warning systems may be regarded as another means of reducing the consequences. So, as I mentioned, consider siya another means of reduced consequence or consequence reduction. Risk transfer. This is financial option, not an engineering one. It involves transferring the potential economic consequence of failure to a third party, primarily through insurance or specialized contracts, and postpone the decision. If there is sufficient uncertainty, it may not be appropriate to make a decision on the data available. Therefore, further investigation or monitoring will be required to provide data for better evaluation of the risk structure itself. Next slide is Night Table 11.4, a brief list of landslide remedial measures na ang modification of slope geometry, drainage, retaining structures, internal slope reinforcement. Then, according sa handbook, there is like three primary categories of remedial measures. Ang una kay drainage measures. These are universally regarded as most effective and often the most cost efficient. They focus on removing water from the slope, which directly increases the soil's effective strength. Kaya since groundwater is the single greatest trigger for landslide, nang drainage measures therefore directly target the factor that reduces the shear strength of soil. Now there are different types of drainage measures. Surface drainage. This is the simplest measure. This involves constructing open ditches and concrete lined channels to intercept surface runoff before it infiltrates the ground. Effective surface drainage is mandatory for any landslide prone area, so di lang siya sa bridges, kundi sa any landslide zone prone areas, mandatory siya. Subsurface drainage or interceptor drains. It is for shallower groundwater. Subsurface trench drains. These are deep trenches backfilled with free draining gravel and a perforated pipe designed to intercept and convey water away from the sliding mass. So it's basically a network of trench drains effective in shallow sides. Now the third is subhorizontal borehole drain surfaces or subhorizontal drains. In instances where the groundwater is too deep to be reached by ordinary trench, so too deep shot to reach by subsurface drainage. But where the landslide is too small to justify an expensive drainage adit or gallery, dira mapasok bored sub-horizontal drains. Dira magamit. Now, horizontal drains, it is for deeper aquifers. These are perforated pipes drilled into hillside at a slight upward angle, allowing the water to drain freely by gravity. Sa next slide, kanang na figure 11-12, is various drainage measures applied to a landslide stabilization. Nadiri ang bore drains, apo yung mga surface drains dira. And then sa next figure is example figure siya sa kaning horizontal drains. Now another remedial measures is structural measures. These are reinforcement techniques that increases the shear strength along the potential slip surface, typically involving external elements like piles or retaining walls. Now, ayaw ni siya ma-implement kung drainage alone is insufficient or when the stability must be guaranteed for a critical asset like a bridge. Different types are napod siya retaining structures. This includes heavy gravity walls or cantilevered walls built at the toe of the slope to resist the sliding force. These are passive measures that rely on their weight and internal strength. Another is stabilizing piles or piers. A highly effective measure for deep-seated slides is driving or drilling large diameter stabilization piles or reinforcement concrete piers deep into the ground, ensuring they penetrate the slip plane and sock it into a stable bedrock. These piles resist the sliding mass through the shear and bending. Soil anchor and anchored walls. For unstable slopes, we can use ground anchors, post-tension high strength steel tendons to actively pull the unstable soil mass back into stable rock beneath, effectively pre-stressing the slope to increase stability. So, nada siya mga examples daw, example pictures. Another is micropiles. It is smaller diameter piles used for slope stabilization. Different types is soil nailing, installing and grouting steel bars or nails into a slope face to reinforce the soil. This avoids the need to expose or alter the slope, reducing the failure risk. Another is biotechnical stabilization. It is soft engineering using vegetation integrated with man-made elements. Ang isa kay biotech mechanism. Roots provide deep reinforcement, anchoring, and vegetation aids stability by intercepting rainfall and through transpiration or reducing groundwater. Effectiveness and acceptability. Nasa 5 levels. The choice of measure is a trade-off among technical, financial, and societal factors. Design must be flexible or design as you go approach due to unknown geological features. Number 1, engineering feasibility. The measure must be physically effective and compatible with the natural system. So it must work. Second is economic feasibility. The cost must be balanced against the benefits. So avoided damage or deferred maintenance. 3, legal or regulatory conformity. It must comply with all local codes and regulations and avoid creating liability for adjacent properties. Fourth, social acceptability. The measure must be acceptable to the community and neighbors. Fifth, environmental acceptability. Must avoid adverse environmental effects like excessive dewatering that damages sensitive plants and animal communities.
So now I will continue the discussion by focusing on landslide monitoring and warning systems and the stages that the landslides will go through. And this is very important because, as we all know, we could not stop nature. So what we could do is that we could prepare people or we could predict the danger by monitoring and by the warning systems. And through that, the damage will be reduced, right? That is why landslide monitoring and warning systems is very essential. And is very essential for reducing landslide risk. So we will start first with monitoring. Now, what is landslide monitoring? So landslide monitoring means regularly observing, and you're not just observing, but you are also taking into consideration the condition of a slope. So dili lang ka-observed, you're also measuring the condition of a slope para makasabo para you would understand if it is becoming unstable. So what's ang main purpose? What is the main purpose of monitoring? The main purpose of that is to detect early signs of danger, and that could protect communities near the slope. And kanang monitoring gives us the chance to prevent disaster before it happens. And the Department of Environment has identified the following categories of monitoring. And una is natay preliminary monitoring. Ang preliminary monitoring, this is the monitoring done before a project or an activity begins. So for example, before building a school on a hillside, okay, engineers inspects the slope and they look for cracks, unstable soil, and also the past landslide records. And kung ang area is too risky, if the area is too risky, dira na nga they may relocate the school into a safer ground. So that is the preliminary monitoring. It happens, it is done before a project or an activity begins. So the second one is the precautionary monitoring. Ang precautionary monitoring, this is the type of monitoring that happens during the construction. And its purpose is the safety of workers and ongoing projects. Example, for example, katong school nga gibuild. So, while, I know, ano na lang road. So, while building a road that cuts through a mountain, say a mountain, or like you're building a bridge, engineers installs instruments that measure soil movement. And if kato makadetect og unusual shift, ang trabaho mapos, and preferably or kanang ma-redesign to para ma-prevent ang collapse. That is why ang kining precautionary, it allows immediate adjustments in construction para ma-avoid ang accidents nga mahitabo. So ang ikatulo, ang post-construction monitoring. So there is a post-construction monitoring. After ni siya, ang preliminary before, ang precautionary during, ang post-construction kay after a project is finished. So after ang mahuman na project, dili na siya dayon stop ang monitoring. So ga-monitor gyapon na sila. Monitoring continues. And ang goal ani is to make sure that the stabilization techniques like kanang kung sa bridge pa, like mga retaining walls and soil nails, they are performing well. And for example, a subdivision. Ang subdivision kay gitukod siya near a slope. And katong siyang near sa slope ng subdivision, ga-experience siya heavy rain. So mga authorities, periodically they are inspecting the slope to make sure that the drainage or the katong or the drainage is working and walay cracks nga mo appear sa mga buildings. And why does post-construction matters? Because it ensures long-term safety for people and the structures. Kaya after sa mabuild ang project, and then they still monitoring it para i-make sure nila nga as kanang pang long-term gyud siya ang construction. Now, for landslide warning systems, kung katong monitoring systems, the focuses more on gathering the data. Ang warning systems, gina-ensure niya that people receive timely alerts when danger is detected. So why is it important? Why is warning systems important? In many places, especially dito sa mga mountainous community dito sa bukid-bukid, ang mga landslide dito they can happen with little to no warning. Kalit lang siya, 'di ba? So ang kanang nindot or like a good warning systems gives people enough time to evacuate and protect their family. So they need a good warning systems dito sa mga bukid-bukid kay syempre yun nga ang landslide dito is usay walay warning at all, landslide ra siya kalit. And kining warning systems natay stages diri where warning systems are applied. Una is the pre-failure stage. Diri sa pre-failure stage, the ground is still intact. Pero small signs of instability begin to appear. Natay mga revealing factors diri which is cracks on the ground or tilting of the building. And kung dito sa bukid-bukid, syempre, di ba, bukid-bukid man, kung kanang mga trees, may daghan dito. So, kung mga trees dito is ga-tilt na, especially, dili lang isa ka tree ang ga-tilt, katub yung isa ka portionan sa uphill or dito sa slope, nag-tilt ang trees, isa po na siya sa revealing factor. And the second stage is the failure stage. So, diri nga stage kay, diri na niyang critical stage. Kay, the landslide is about to happen or already beginning. Kan, napoy mga revealing factors diri. Ang mga revealing factors diri kay, sudden acceleration of movement. Ang katong, for example, naay mga bato hinay-hinay lang siya katagak. And then suddenly, i-accelerate lang yung movement o kalit, ipaspas lang sila like ka fall. So, mo na isa sa revealing factor sa failure stage. It means, about to happen na gyud ang landslide. Kanang gasugod na ba? And the third stage is the post-failure stage. Diri na ma-associate ang warning system. So this stage occurs after the landslide has already happened. Ang focus dere is predicting the consequences such as how fast the debris is moving or how far it may travel. Diba, ano naman, diba? Kanang landslide na. So, diri sa post-failure stage, diri na ang kanang mga consequences ato kung ang landslide ba, bako iyang masakop nga lugar or kung usa ka paspas ang landslide and unsang mga area nga maapektuhan atong landslide na nahitabo na. Dira mo na ang post-failure stage. Now, according to Leroy, 1996, na mga stages in landslide activity. So, una, natay pre-failure stage. Diri sa pre-failure stage, the ground is weakening, na mga slow movements known as creep and begin, kasugod na tong mga creep, and then warning signs like cracks or bulging may appear. And then the next stage is the onset of failure. So there is onset of failure, a shear surface fully forms. So nanay shear nga na form and marks the beginning of the actual landslide. For example, kanang after continuous rain, and after continuous rain, for example, crack something dito, and then after continuous rain, ang katong crack, mas ni-deepen siya, and the soil, nagsugod na siya, nag-break apart na siya. So, diri ang onset of failure. Next is the post-failure stage. So, diri nga stage kay the soil or the rock mass has failed and continues moving until it eventually stops. Kibali, the soil or the rock or the soil or the rock mass is already sliding down. And then the last stage is, according to Leroy, is the reactivation stage. So there is a reactivation stage. Older landslides can move again. So after the kato siya nga um kato siya nga lugar, say for example, 5 years ago, gilandslide to siya. And then ni-active na po siya, nibalik na po siya, nagpakita na po siya signs of reactivation nga mag-landslide ang katong nga lugar na ni-landslide 5 years ago. So that is the stages of landslides according to or identified by Leroy 1996. So many landslide prevention methods are expensive. Kay dili man na siya dali buhaton, right? So expensive gyud ang uban nga landslide prevention methods. That is why ang uban, they may prefer cheaper, less disruptive options like monitoring and early warning systems. However, para daw sa katong nga mga systems mag-work siya effectively, according to Hutchinson 2001, dapat na kay kanang mga conditions nga ma-met. So the first condition is the monitoring system must measure the right factors, be properly located, and function reliably. Meaning, dapat accurate and reliable. When we say right factors, i-measure nila yung mga right factors like rainfall, soil movement, or ground water pressure. And dapat kadto nakalocate siya sa correct position. Kaya kung i-position nimo siya sa lugar pod nga dili kay ka landslide, like wala gyud landslide at all dito. Kini mo sa hill, gibutang dito sa ground nga dili ka landslide, hindi po siya pulos. So second is experts must continuously evaluate the monitoring data. Experts sa trained professional, ang mga trained professional dapat ang mag-interpret sa data because actually, ang kanang mga monitoring device, useless lang gyapon siya kung walay ga-check if nobody checks it, it's still useless. So next is the decision must be made quickly once danger levels are reached. So dapat na ay quick decision making kay when dangers are reached, authorities must act immediately. No delay. Wala dapat delay. And next one, warning must be delivered to authorities immediately and accurately so they can act with confidence. Meaning, dapat clear and dapat na immediate communication sa authorities. And ang mga warnings, dapat they must reach authorities quickly and must be forwarded to the public without confusion. Dapat clear yun siya. It's because diri man gud is landslide, meaning life is at risk. So kung maghatag kag kanang dapat ang communication dili is clear gyud, like kanang walay confusion nga mahitabo para wala po'y delay nga mahitabo. So next is authorities must then inform the public without causing panic or confusion. So kini diri nga part mo to anang the community must be well informed, dapat trained pud sila, And dapat educated po sila actually about sa evacuation routes and sa warning systems kay para dili sila karatul-ratul unya ang mahitabo magpanik unya magkagubot so mosamot ka ano dili so dili siya effective kibali. And the community must be educated and prepared mo na educated so dapat ang katong kita as na-diri sa community dapat educated pud ta sa kanang tawag niyan kanang pag-evacuate, evacuation, and sa mga warning signals as well. And dapat dili ta kanang panic agad-agad. Now, forecasting the time of landslide. So landslide, they are complex and they are difficult to predict. Why? Because they involve different material sizes, movement speeds, and moisture conditions. Ilang behavior can range from slow creep to fast, destructive avalanches, making ang mga accurate forecasting, they are challenging. And landslide prediction is categorized into long-term, intermediate term, and short-term. Predicting the exact time of landslide will occur remains challenging, just like earthquake, due to unclear physical behavior, variable ground conditions, and unpredictable triggers like heavy rainfall. However, kining mga tracking displacement movements is one of the most useful methods. Nanay mga successful predictions diri like the Chiquikamata mine case. It shows that even estimates with some margin of error can support decision making. In conclusion, landslide hazards assessment is the key first step in managing landslide risk. Once hazards are identified, we can estimate which structures are at risk, the damage they may face, and compare the cost of mitigation with potential losses. High-risk areas must be identified, ranked, and addressed quickly. Mitigation measures may include relocating structures, stabilizing slopes, proper land use planning, and maintenance and emergency preparedness. An effective landslide management requires cooperation between engineers and geologists, moving the practice towards a more scientific and systematic approach. And that's all. Thank you.